everyone, today I'm going to show you how to change the charge cooler in your BMW M2 or the M3, the S55 motor, without draining the coolant. Now, Brian from Keys Motorsports already did a DIY video on how to install the top cooler, but in his case, he was also doing the heat exchanger, so he had the whole bumper off, he drained the whole system, so it was pretty straightforward for him. It was a slightly different DIY. In my case, I want to show you that it's fairly simple to upgrade the top cooler in your garage using common hand tools if this is the only upgrade you want to do to your car. Now, in my case, I want to do both eventually. Actually, I do have the heat exchanger sitting here, but I won't be doing it today for two reasons. I want to show you how simple it is to do just the top, but also I'm waiting for the oil cooler to come in so I can do both at the same time with the bumpers off, and it's a lot easier. Before you get started, I just want to explain to you why I'm doing what I'm doing. So essentially, you've got the two turbos sitting there. The hot air is flowing through these upgraded charge pipes, and then it gets cooled by this intercooler. Some cars have it in the front. This is mounted up top because it's cooled by the coolant from the engine. Now, that coolant then is cooled by what we have here, the heat exchanger that's going to be upgraded. So the heat exchanger, obviously the car currently has a stock heat exchanger, so it cools the coolant. The coolant itself cools the air flowing in from the turbos to the throttle body, and then from the throttle body goes into the engine, and that's how you make the most power. The cooler the air, the more power you have. Now, upgrading this will apparently cool the temperatures a lot more and will increase the throttle response because there's a lot more airflow going through it. So I'm very excited about it. And there are many makes and models of heat exchangers and top coolers out there, but I went with Mishimoto for two reasons. The first one is I was blown away by a video I saw on Keys Motorsports of Brian taking a tour of the shop and the engineers explaining all the mechanics behind designing the various components. It was really, really fantastic. And two, I really like the plug and play design of these units because yes, they are bigger, they are more effective, they are more efficient, but they plug into the stock components, the stock routing, so there's very little modification you need to do, and I'm going to be walking you through all of it. Oh, and actually, while the cooler is out, we're also going to be upgrading the J-pipe that I also got from Keys Motorsport. First thing we're going to do is we want to purge the coolant from the top mount, and to do this, we're going to disconnect the inlet line. So this is the inlet, this is the outlet. We're going to put this in a little bucket. Then we're going to start the water pump. I'm going to show you how to do this. So the water pump is going to circulate it. So it's going to be pulling from here and the expansion tank, and on the inlet side, it's now going to be going back in. It's going to be going back into my little bucket. So now what we do is we grab a little pick tool and we pull this little quick disconnect bracket, and this will allow us to remove this and put the end in my little bottle here. So this now goes in this bottle here. Before we get to the next step, we're actually going to connect the battery charger, because what we're going to do is we're going to run the water pump and we're going to start it without actually starting the car. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Hold on a second. I had an idea. What if you're not comfortable running the pump? What if you don't have a charger? This is Tommy L Garage, and I have an alternate solution. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of jokes made about this, but here we go. Essentially, you want to purge the system, push the fluid from here into this bottle. Yes, the pump can do it for you, but you can also do it yourself, as I shall now demonstrate. The fluid is filling up this bottle. As I'm blowing air through it, the air is pushing the fluid through the system and into this bottle. I can't believe how well this works. This is insane. Now that we've had this experience with the car, I feel like I know it a lot better. Anyways, most of the fluid has been drained from the cooler, so it'll be easier for us to disconnect the bottom pieces here without draining a lot of fluid. First, the idea is to disconnect this one. As you can see, no fluid at all. And then we're going to take a pick tool and pick this guy. But check this out. No fluid whatsoever. Before we go any further, the next idea I got from Keys Motorsports. Essentially, you cut a finger off of a glove and you put it over these inlets and outlets, so when you're removing them, there's a smaller chance that you'll spill something. Next, we're going to remove the charge pipe clamps and try to pull them away. There we go. Next, we go to the side of the cooler and we have to disconnect this sensor here. So you just basically use a pick tool to pull it out. And then we're also going to be undoing this guy, which will loosen up the J-pipe and it'll allow us to pull the whole cooler assembly out. And this is a 6mm. We are now ready to pry the system. So essentially, we want to move it up and it sits on these little grommets similar to what the engine cover sits on. So you just kind of want to wiggle it out so it pops off, clicks out, and as it clicks out, it'll also slide out from the charge pipe. There we go. And it's out. And I know you're all curious, so this is what it looks like in there. So these are the charge pipes that are going straight from the turbo, and here right over the intake manifold, this is the J-pipe that we're going to be replacing. But basically, that J-pipe, there's a 90 or even more degree turn, and it goes into the throttle body and it distributes the air into the each one of the 6 cylinders. But this is where all the cooling happens. All right, so let's do a little unboxing before we do anything else, because I'm very curious about what this looks like. So the packaging is great. You do get a license plate cover. You get all the hardware as well as Mishimoto decal. You get a little air freshener. And this is what it looks like. So this is the top side of the cooler and this is the bottom side. So this is it, stock one on the left, upgraded one on the right. You have plastic inlets here and plastic outlets versus all aluminum here, and apparently there's a lot more flow going through the center core, which gives you not only better throttle response but also improved cooling. Now all these mounting points are exactly identical to stock, so everything will be a plug-and-play design. And now you're going to squeeze this bracket, pull it out so you can pull the tube. You can use pliers, but let me show you a cool tool that I have. So this is a tool designed specifically for clamps like these, and I got the idea from my friend Derek. So when we used to work on Volvos, this was super helpful. But essentially you squeeze it in, apply pressure, see, and it allows you to hold it, so you don't have to do anything. It holds it for you so you can slide it wherever you want. It just makes this job a lot easier. I'm actually going to link it in the description in case you're interested in getting your own. Before we slide it out, we're going to flip it upside down. It's funny how empty it feels. I drained most of the fluid, I have a feeling. We're going to protect the new one. And on the other side, we're going to transfer the brackets just as you see it here. This one goes directly here, this one goes directly up here. Before we install the top mount, first we need to move over to the J-pipe, and this is the J-pipe that I also got from Keys Motorsports, and it replaces the plastic piece. So this is the piece that attaches to the throttle body, and it goes here. You've got the sensors here, you've got these 2 bunks here. I believe these are for meth injection. What we're going to do is we're actually going to unscrew them, put some Teflon tape on them to make sure nothing wiggles out. I don't think it should ever, but just to be sure. And this is the coupler that's going to couple this with the top cooler. And going into here, this is what the stock unit looks like. And what we have to do is we have to undo this little bracket right there. I know it's hard to see, but essentially to get this undone, it's a one-time sort of, it looks like a spine, but you take your pick tool and you pry it up, open. You see? There you go. See, there you go. I pushed it out, and then we're gonna grab a set of pliers and pull it out, and the spine will come out, releasing this guy. This is what it looks like. It's a one-time use. And with everything disconnected, we could simply remove the pipe off the throttle body. Bam. This is the stock unit on the left. This is the upgraded one. This is made out of plastic. This, I believe, is made out of aluminum. This one, as you can see, it sort of crimples right here in the middle, whereas with the aftermarket one, you have an even sort of bend, if you will. At this point, you may ask, why don't you clean the throttle body? I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but I am putting a mirror in there, and it looks squeaky clean, so there's no need for me to do any cleaning whatsoever. And installing the J-pipe is pretty straightforward. You just do a little swoop. You press it against the throttle body. Then you take this little spring and attach it. And do not forget to reconnect this sensor here. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. We've got our Mishimoto top cooler. Let's make sure all the wires are completely tucked in, that your sensor is ready for you to be plugged in. And the idea is to basically reverse what we did when we removed it. So push it into the throttle body pipe first and make sure it fits snugly, and then align it onto the little grommets. Make sure it sits. And that's really it. Let's not forget to plug in this sensor. We're going to tighten this bracket. With the clamps tightened, we can now take care of the charge pipes. Okay, and now we can remove my trusted towel, and we can connect the inlet hose, and then we can also put this guy in and clip this in place. At this point of the process, let's double check that everything is sitting as it should, and it is. All the connections are nice and tight. Everything is tightened. This is plugged in. We're going to unscrew the expansion tank and fill in the coolant all the way up, and let the car burp itself. And there's a special procedure for it. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. And in case you're wondering, why am I not using new coolant? I do have distilled water and regular coolant handy because I am going to have to refill a little bit, but I'm going to be doing the heat exchanger, which requires a complete drain, so there's no need for me to drain it fully. And also, this goes to support my initial statement that you can really do it in your garage fairly easily without draining your coolant. So next we're going to let the water pump do its job and bleed the system out of any air bubbles, and let me show you how to do that. Okie dokie, so in the car you have to make sure that the seatbelt is on, you have to make sure that the ignition is on, you have to make sure that the headlights are in the on position. Then your heater, what you want to do is you want to put it at the highest possible setting, but only the lowest fan setting. Put the car in neutral in our case, put the ignition in Sport Plus, put the suspension in Sport Plus, put the steering in Sport Plus, and now what you do is you hold the accelerator for 10 seconds, and that's how you initiate the sequence. So you ready? 1. We release. Okay, so I am timing it. About 6 minutes into it, the actual water pump should start running, and we're going to hear it and whatnot. But the whole sequence, from start to finish, from the moment we press the accelerator pedal, should take about 11 or 12 minutes. Depends on who you ask. But yeah, so let me time it. At the same time, I'm going to open up the cap and see if that's changing. It should be bubbling a little bit. Look at this. Bam. Sorry, I had to rush because we are exactly almost 6 minutes into it, and it started doing its thing. I just filled it up with the mixture, and you can hear the pump running. This is pretty incredible. You can actually feel the coolant flowing through here. This is actually a good idea for us now to check if there are any leaks or not. And if there are any bubbles, this thing would typically bubble, and you can kind of see that it's moving. It's all about 12 minutes now, and we have bled the system. Now we have to repeat the same sequence 2 more times to make sure all the bubbles out. Afterwards, if this is too much fluid, I might have to extract a little bit because it's a bit over the limit. But yeah, let's run it 2 more times and get ready to close. But in the meantime, it'll give me a chance to clean up my beautiful mess. So the sequence has been completed. The last thing we need to do is start the engine and bring it up to running temperatures just to make sure everything is operating as it should. All right, and we are only going to go for a gentle cruise. I mean, it sounds good. There are no error messages on the dash, no notifications. And obviously, other than that, I will not notice any differences. But in terms of the temperatures and whatnot, we'll see it at the track. This is only see if there are no boost leaks or anything, which I doubt because I'm fairly detailed when it comes to these things. So I'd be surprised if there were any. And the quality of the product, I mean, speaks for itself. No hiccups, no anything. And we're done. First and foremost, thanks to Keys Motorsports for providing an amazing product, and they really have one of the best prices out there, so check them out. I'm going to link everything in the description. Their Mishimoto product is fantastic. I'm very happy with it. This is not the end of it. We're also going to be installing the heat exchanger as well as the oil cooler. I also have a catch can, but there's a catch 22 with a catch can, because with a catch can I cannot install the catch can with my intake. So do I switch up my intake yet again for something different? I was thinking maybe the one that sits behind the front grills, so I can install the catch can. That will probably be the most sensible thing to do, because I really do want a catch can, but I do love this intake. I love the way it sounds. So I don't know, if you have any idea what I should do, comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.